the MGF feud, obviously we need to talk about it. We saw Dinner Debonair up there. There was teases throughout the Dynamite era of you and MGF and the similarities between the two of you. I assume it was a concerted effort to hold off on it until it was the right time, and then do it, because it ended up being, I mean, how long did that go? You were in the
It
team?
was exactly 1 year. Think about that. A storyline in wrestling that lasted for a year. And I really take great pride in that because I love long-term storytelling. That's one of the things I don't like about WWE sometimes is they shotgun everything. They go so fast. And it's like the hurt business. Hurt business? Yeah. Those guys look cool. And it was like, that's cool. And like 8 weeks later, they break up. And it's like, why? You could have done a year with those guys. That's what I wanted to do with Max. And once again, I always kind of looked at, well, who do I want to work with? Who's available? Who's not fighting for the title? Let's figure it out. So it was Cody. Then we did the whole Mox feud. Then we did the Elite feud for Stadium. Then we did, we as in the royal sense, me. We did the Orange Cassidy. And as soon as that was done, suddenly MJF and Jericho, his story ended and my story ended. We always knew kind of what we wanted to do, and that we'll team up first, and then you'll turn on me and see where it goes. Did we think it was going to last a year? No, but once again, I have thought this and said it for years, is that you don't try and lead the story, you let the story lead you. Where is it going? What's the twists and turns that are happening here? So that's what we started off. You know, Max wants a faction, wants to get in your circle. Some guys are into it, some guys aren't. We have a match. If you can beat me, you're in the inner circle. And he does. And like, wow, now we have 2 extra guys. It causes some problems. We go to Vegas and film. I just watched that Vegas bit. It's so funny. It holds up so well. And that was us just once again. What's in the lockdown? Let's go to Vegas. Let's have AEW send us to Vegas and just drink and party and film. And that's what we did. One of my favorite parts is Elvis walking through the hallway of the hotel, which, by the way, was that suite. If you guys remember that we did this big Vegas inner circle in Vegas, the hotel suite where we filmed was the same hotel suite as The Hangover. They filmed the movie The Hangover. It was $30,000 a night. It was amazing. But Elvis was walking through, and I said, we need some farm animals. Like, can we get some chickens? And they're like, no, you can't get chickens. Like, what do you mean you can't get chickens? They won't allow, like, the Chicken Federation of America won't allow chickens live on set. I'm like, really? Chickens? Can we just CGI them? And they're like, I think we can. Let's CGI chickens. So having Elvis, after Elvis and I wake up in bed together because we're both super drunk, and we're walking through the hallway and we're all up, and here comes the chickens, and I was like, who brought the farm animals, baby? This is stuff that I get a big kick out of, so I hope you guys thought it was funny. I'm sure some people thought it was the worst thing ever, but see, I love that style of wrestling too, though. Like, I grew up in the 80s watching Vince McMahon sing Stand Back at the Slammies. I mean, that's wrestling to me too. It's that side of it. It's fun, right? So when we do, Dinner Debonair, we go to Vegas, or we did the Bubbly Bunch and all the stuff that we did, that's wrestling to me as well. It's entertainment, it's character building, it's fun. And that's the crux of what the business is. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun. If you want high art, go watch the chess tournament. Trust me, nobody wants to watch the chess tournament. You want some fun and see some great moves and see some ridiculous characters and CGI chickens with Elvis walking through a hotel room? That's wrestling.
F*** your chess. But with the MGF stuff, I mean, one of the fun parts was you did the Labors of Jericho. And
Yeah.
if someone had said to me pre-COVID, there will be a COVID, I would have said you were crazy. But that Chris Jericho would wrestle Nick Gage on TNT.
Yeah.
I mean, thoughts on, putting that together? Nobody expected to see that.
Well, here's what I love with working with Max, and it was like when our feud finally ended, it almost felt like broke up with my girlfriend or something. It was kind of sad because we worked in tandem for the whole thing. Obviously Tony's involved too, but just coming up with ideas from week to week and kind of having these overall arching plans. And we had the idea that I have to go through the guys to get to Max. The Mox program, he had to go through the inner circle to get to me. So I was like, it's kind of like I don't want to do the exact same thing and go through the Pinnacle, but I do want to have a match with Spears. I do want to have a match with Wardlow. I want to have a match with everybody, and then Max said, well, what if we get like some like guests type of a thing? And he was really stuck on this Nick Gage guy. Now, once again, I don't know who the Nick Gage is. The only thing I vaguely remember about Nick Gage is isn't he the guy that like tried to kill David Arquette or something like that? So I watched this Nick Gage, and I'm like, okay, I understand. So this is kind of cool. Like, you bring your chair guy, Spears. I beat him. Then you bring in like the death match guy who's gonna tear your throat out. Okay, that's kind of cool. Then you bring in one of your oldest rivals, Juventud. Great. And then everyone's like, it's got to be Lance Storm the fourth, and this guy. No, it's Wardlow. That's the guy. It's just, that's where the Powerbomb Symphony started. My idea, by the way. Thank you. But Nick Gage, it was once again like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's insane. And then I asked Mox about him. He's like, oh, he's I think what he used, he's a teddy bear or something. He's just whatever he said. And I spoke to him a couple times, and he was super, super respectful. And that goes a long way with me. Like, I meet a lot of guys in the business. As long as you have respect for the business, I'm cool with you. I don't care what you do. And when I met him, he was so, so respectful. And really was happy to be there, and was kind of like, hey man, I just want to tell you, like, I'm a real big fan of yours, and like, it's really cool for me to be here. And I was like, he loves wrestling. This is the path that his wrestling took. Doesn't mean he's any less of a wrestler. I really started learning the psychology of death match wrestling. What possesses these guys to do this? I'm not one of those guys, that stupid mud show wrestling. I don't look at it that way. I look at it, okay, there's a market for this, and these guys are really good at what they're doing. How are they doing it? So I really watched what he was doing, and I thought, like, man, I'll do it. There was a Chris Jericho time period I would never get hit with a light tube. That's stupid. That's not wrestling. That's shit. And then, once again, take head out of ass Jericho, and does it fit the story? Yes. Does it fit the story of the match? Yes. Let's do it. And that's how that match happened. And I loved that match. It's one of my favorite matches that I've had. I'll never take another light tube over the head. There's no reason for me to. Then again, I said I'd never take another thumbtack bump, and I took one the other day and blood and guts, so who knows. But it fit, and it was really cool, and he did a great job, and he's very popular. He really is very popular. And the only bad thing is, like, sometimes we don't choose where the matches are. Had that match been like in New York or Philadelphia or somewhere on the East Coast, it would have been even more of a reaction. We did it like, I think, Charlotte, North Carolina. I don't know how big Nick Gage is in Charlotte, but people still loved it. And it was just really cool. And I always had it in mind, like, maybe there'll be a place where we can do something together again. Like, I would do something with him at any point in time, bring him in for something special if I needed him for a story. Once again, nothing but respect for the guy, and I had never even heard of him prior to Max talking about him and suggest. That was Max's idea, and I think it turned out great. If you watch too, thank you. We came up with the idea, I would do the Frankensteiner from the top, and he would take the bump through the plate of glass that we had set up on two chairs. If you watch that back and slow it down, when I do the Frankensteiner, my feet hit the glass, and it pops up just a bit, and he comes down on it. Had it gone the other way, it might have just collapsed into the ground, and that wouldn't have happened. But it's amazing the stuff that could almost happen. But yeah, I was like, my feet hit that glass, and it was like, oh, please don't fall out. Oh, thank you.
And then Domino's got in touch briefly after that match.
That was hilarious. So Nick wanted to do a pizza cutter. That's one of his gimmicks. So he, right out of the gate, I said, well, he slices my arm with a pizza cutter. I still have a scar there. And that gets people like, holy shit, this is real. And then during the commercial break, he starts slicing my forehead with the pizza cutter. In picture-in-picture. Now, picture-in-picture is like they take the screen down so you can still watch the action, but there's a commercial. People yell at us at Blood and Guts like, oh, get all these commercials during the match. It kills the flow of the match. You do understand it's free. And we have to pay the bills. So watch the commercials and shut your mouth, right? Just shut up. Quit complaining. I really wish they didn't have commercials on a free TV show for an hour-long match. Matches are too long. Matches are too short. Not enough action. Too much action. Shut up. So right when Nick is carving my forehead with the pizza cutter, there is a Domino's pizza commercial where the guy is cutting the pizza with what? A pizza cutter. Cutting. And apparently Domino's was furious. And this was like, AEW is going to lose all their sponsors, and then this is it. This is the end of the line. Nothing ever happened. I was like, if I was the Domino's guy, I would have filmed a Chris Jericho, Nick Gage commercial the next day. I mean, it's right there. Pizza cutters, Domino's, they go hand in hand.
Well, you go from pizza cutters, and one of the big moments in your rivalry with MJF was the original Blood and Guts, where you take the bump off the cell. Was that your idea? Did you need to be talked into that? Were you up for doing it? Talk us through your thought process of doing that spot.
Well, once again, I mean, terrifying, by the way, one of the most terrifying things I had to do just all day thinking about it. And I knew that it's the finish that had to be done. You know, it's surrender or submit. We're on top of the cage. Max is threatening to throw me off. Sammy surrenders. They win the match, and then he throws me off anyways. That's a heel. That's what he should do. So I would have loved to not have taken that bump, but it was the only way to end that match. So it's part of my job. Like we mentioned with the light tube, or talking about the spin on top of the cage, all that stuff. I would rather not do those things, but it fits the story, and that's the most important thing to me. So yeah, I was scared. I really was scared. And if you watch that, I dislocated my elbow on one side. But if you really watch, there was like a bunch of lights that when I fell off, I went so far back that the back of my head missed a rack of lights by this much. If I would have whacked my head on the back of like these metal spotlights, I could have died, right? But you don't think about that when you're doing it. You just pray for the best. So Sammy's fall the other day at Blood and Guts was way crazier because it was higher. My fall went into the stage, which wasn't as high, but I'm not Sammy Guevara. I'm not that talented as far as being an athlete, and I have a thing called fear that goes into my head that he did not. But I remember all day long just thinking about it, praying, like, please, we just, every precaution you can take, we took, but still, you're literally falling, 12 feet on your back. Can't see anything. It's just like, here we go. And they said, step off the back. So you're standing there, and they said, step off. So the guy just goes, you just step off, and then you just fall. And I'm like, well, it's easy for you to say, Mr. Stuntman. So I'm on the thing, and it's like, step back, but what if I don't? And I pushed myself off, which is why I almost hit my head on the back. I don't know. But, we're not trained stuntmen, but it's part of what we do. So I thought it was a great finish. And I think, like I said, the reason why we did is because it just fit the story and just kind of really intensified the rivalry and the stakes between Max and Chris. Because at that point, we'd been going for, I think, 8 months. But there was still more to the story. And that's why we ended up going a whole year. Because that story played itself out in a year. It couldn't have gone shorter. Some people say it was too long. I don't think so. I think every week and every piece fit the puzzle of that overall tale that we were telling.
And then, we talked about the original Stadium Stampede earlier. But then a year later, you guys do the sequel. And this time, you get to end it with a crowd. And, I mean, that must have been a cool moment for you for all the reasons you mentioned earlier about, not being in front of a crowd and reading people to being able to do a Stadium Stampede with a crowd.
Well, I think that was Sammy's idea, and Tony loved it, and I didn't even think of it. It's like, what a great idea. Let's do Stadium Stampede, but let's move it into the arena, where I think that was the first show where we had a full house. Again, like full capacity was back, and it was just amazing. The crowd was just so hot because everyone was excited just to be back out doing something. So we did the Stadium Stampede, like you said, and if you look, another reason why I started the MGF thing is I had two things that I wanted to do. I wanted to get Max over as a bigger star, which definitely worked. I wanted to get Sammy over as a bigger star, which definitely worked, and then there's a little bit of a backtrack, but now he's back where he needs to be again. These guys need this storytelling. If you remember Stadium Stampede, Sammy won the same. He's the one who came back in with spears. Could have easily just said, I'm going to do it. No, Sammy's the one who sprayed the bubbly on the guys. You try and put everyone in a spot where they get a little bit of a spotlight on them. And I think that's why it worked so well in that live setting. And it was the perfect way to kind of bridge Stadium Stampede with Anarchy in the Arena. I don't want to do a cinematic match. Nobody does. We wanted to take the Stadium Stampede concept and bring it to the live post-pandemic stage. And that's where Anarchy in the Arena came from. It's kind of a similar idea, but now we're doing it in everybody's face, live in the crowd, live in the arena. And I think that match worked out. It was so good. But once again, we didn't know what's the Anarchy in the Arena match? I don't know. We show up at the T-Mobile Center in Vegas and we're looking around this big, giant, empty arena. It didn't even have a ring in it. And we're just like, well, now what are we going to do? But it's something that Vince used to say. I just book, you make it work. And that's what we did. We made it work. So I'm really proud of the levels that we've continued to grow to with the chains that we had on us. A, being a brand new company. B, being in a lockdown. And C, trying to keep things entertaining. And I think we've done that and continue to raise the bar each pay-per-view, each match, each year. And that's why we do it. It's one of those things where I think they're hot-shotting. I don't think so, because we need to do everything we can to get as many people talking about us. And there's no such thing as hot-shotting. You just change the guys around, and you're going to do Anarchy in the Arena next year, change the competitors, and it's a whole new match. That's what we need to continue to do. That's what we've done, I think, very well so far.
And, with MJF, the last thing about him is obviously he's very much in the news right now with everything that's going on. What did you, learn about working with him, in terms of what he was like as somebody to work with? And, what do you see in his future?
He's really smart. He's really smart. And even though he's only been in the business 5-6 years, he really does have an air to him that he's been around 20 years. That's why I really enjoyed working with him, because he's really smart. He's still not as good as he's gonna be, and that just comes with more time and more experience. So I used to say to him sometimes, you're not as good as you think you are yet. You're getting there, but you're still not as good as you think you are. And once again, I also have a motto, if it doesn't have anything to do with me, I don't pay attention to it or worry about it. So the whole thing with Max right now, if he was in a story with me, I might know a bit more about it, but he's not. It doesn't affect me either way, really, so I just kind of stay out of it. So I'm sure he'll be back, or maybe he won't be, but either way, he's going to be a huge star, even bigger than he already is, for a long time, because I think he just maybe turned 26 years old recently. So, that is a great, all he needs is a little bit more experience, which he'll get. But from a thinking standpoint, he's very smart, and he's also deceptively athletic. Most guys in AEW are deceptively athletic. I still look at me, I did a second row lion salt. And these guys are doing running shooting star presses just for the hell of it. Literally, I'm like, F you. Back in the day, a shooting star press was a move that no one could. Now you guys are just doing them standing shooting star presses. Yeah, once again, all you guys go ass.